Welcome to this introduction to critical thinking at university, brought to you by the study advice team at the University of Reading. It is designed for you to go through at your own pace and you can pause it at any time. What does it mean when you're told that you're not being critical enough? What are you being told to do? When do you know that you're being analytical, that you're evaluating something? And how do these things relate to one another? Critical analysis involves many different things, and what kind of critical analysis you do will vary throughout each assignment. What you see on the screen is Bloom's taxonomy, a schematic of critical thinking developed by Benjamin Bloom, an American educational psychologist that is widely used to clarify the relationships between some of the most fundamental aspects of critical analysis. There are several ways in which to understand how the taxonomy is organized. The most obvious one is as a hierarchy, according to which the higher up the pyramid you climb, the more critical you're being. Essays that analyze and evaluate are more critical than those that simply provide relevant information or explain what something means in a couple of sentences. These latter essays may simply present the claims or findings of others without examining their validity, as if they were beyond question, or as if the writer has nothing more to add. This is typical of what we call descriptive writing, which, roughly speaking, maps onto the lowest two levels of Bloom's taxonomy, while the upper four levels represent different stages of critical writing. You may have come across the term descriptive writing before, perhaps in the feedback for an assignment. Descriptive writing is typically distinguished from critical writing, but the distinction isn't always clear. Generally speaking, descriptive writing presents facts, while critical writing presents what we might call truth claims. The difference being that facts are statements that are meant to be taken at face value, that is, as something you wouldn't question, whereas truth claims are presented in a way that anticipates or even invites questioning. The statements that make up descriptive writing, therefore, are presented with no explanation or justification, unlike those that make up critical writing. Descriptive writing aims to inform, while critical writing aims to convince. Descriptive writing generally demonstrates breadth of knowledge or provides the reader with information, while critical writing goes further by using that knowledge and information to make a truth claim. Your approach to reading and research will have a big influence on how descriptive or critical your writing is. Descriptive writing is typically a product of simply looking for information in sources, while critical writing is the product of looking for information, truth claims presented by others, evidence to support one's own truth claims, and other ways of interpreting the evidence. Remember, when reading an academic source, look for more than just facts. And finally, remember that descriptive writing is important, albeit not as important as critical writing. Descriptive writing is often talked about as if it was something you should never do, a trap you should never fall into. Instead, think of it as something you should avoid getting trapped in. Even the most critical writing typically starts with some descriptive writing that provides the reader with essential information about what will be critically discussed later on. Just make sure that you don't spend too long providing too much information and that you know where the facts are building towards. If we think of descriptive writing as a starting point, then we can understand Bloom's taxonomy not just as a hierarchy of criticality, but also as a process of stages. The idea being that to reach any level on the pyramid, we must do everything beneath it. Thus, to present our understanding of something, we must provide relevant information. To apply something, say a theory, method, or knowledge, we must demonstrate that we have understood it. And to analyze something, we must apply a mode of analysis. The word analysis comes from an ancient Greek word meaning to unravel or break something down. The idea here is that when we analyze something, we strip it down to better understand how it works. So, for example, if we want to better understand how a car engine moves the car forward by burning fuel, then we need to take it apart and work out how its components work together to produce that effect. We might already start to notice how Bloom's taxonomy isn't quite a straightforwardly linear hierarchy, insofar as to analyze leads to understanding. One way of explaining why analysis is higher than understanding on the taxonomy is that it only takes as little as a couple of sentences to explain how we understand something, but it takes several paragraphs to outline how we came to that understanding. And this latter process matters in academic writing, for without it, our understanding of something, say a key theory or method, may seem arbitrary and uninformed. In other words, as a hierarchy, what Bloom's taxonomy represents is the steadily greater amount of work needed to demonstrate each of these abilities. But as we've already seen, it also works as a series of steps, meaning that analysis gives you the tools to evaluate. If analysis is a process of figuring out how something works, evaluation is one of determining how well something works. And to do that, we need to compare it with other things. So, to continue the example from earlier, if we want to understand how well a car engine works, we need to compare it with how well other car engines work by analysing them. This also requires a set of clearly defined criteria. We need to know what we're evaluating the engines for. Is it fuel economy, acceleration, durability? And how we're going to measure their performance, miles per gallon, horsepower, miles between breakdowns, etc. Without criteria, we cannot evaluate. The final level or stage of Bloom's taxonomy is create. And again, we should bear in mind how the taxonomy represents a series of stages as well as a hierarchy, insofar as you cannot create without evaluating. Create refers to the use of new knowledge or a new approach, say a theory or method, to develop something that works better than what exists. To return to car engines, this might involve using new knowledge to design a car engine that performs even better than any other existing car engine. In the case of something more abstract, such as a theory or interpretation, it will involve using new knowledge to produce a new theory that accounts better for observations. Bear in mind that create doesn't mean producing something so grand that it will redefine whole fields of knowledge or the way we live. It can be something as humble as making a claim that, as far as you're aware, based on what scholarship you've read, has yet to be made, or taking an angle on something that you haven't seen anyone else take. Even at this level, though, you will need to make a convincing case for your claim or approach, for which you will need to analyze existing claims and demonstrate how they're not as good as yours. Here we run yet again into the nonlinearity of Bloom's taxonomy, insofar as the process of justifying our choice of approach may involve evaluating it against a number of other approaches before applying it. And in applying it, we are analysing something, meaning that we have moved through Bloom's taxonomy twice in a single piece of work. In our academic writing, we will find ourselves moving up and down the taxonomy several times over, depending on what we need to do at any one time. If you ever suspect that you're not being critical enough, it can be helpful to read through your writing and highlight moments in which you're analysing, evaluating, and creating, and then work out how your writing moves between these stages. So, to summarise, make sure that your descriptive writing enables you to move beyond it into critical writing. Use analysis to show the reader how you came to understand something the way you did, rather than just presenting your understanding as requiring no explanation or justification. Analyze and evaluate a theory or method before applying it. Analyze and evaluate existing knowledge and approaches before creating. And provide relevant facts and information about your topic before analyzing it.